Hello and welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me. So in this video, I'm just going to take 5 to 10 minutes just to go through kind of a serious USB issue I was having with the setup that I've got that you can see in front of me, and how I managed to troubleshoot it, diagnose it, and then troubleshoot the problem, and then finally come to a resolution and actually have it so it's now all nicely working. And got rid of the annoying USB issue that I had developed for myself. So, just as a bit of information to start with, I was initially on my channel was running three cameras, and some which were USB streamed, so plugged USB into my main machine, and then I had left-right audio going into the machine, into OBS as well, and that was combining, and then I would make the video from that and put it online, and that was all happy. I'd posted a few videos, and then once I'd been doing that for a bit, as you can see, I decided I wanted to be a bit more of a hybridized setup, and I wanted to combine Ableton with my Electron gear, and just get the whole thing working as a more of a proper unit, instead of doing some funky summing of analog audio into this mixer see down here, which is the analog audio bartender barback, which I use as my standard performance mixer for my modular. So basically, what did was I changed the setup and I made it hybrid, and that required me to. And I thought, well, I might as well, as I'm here, utilize Overbridge on the Electron Octatrack and the analog rhythm. Sorry, the Electron Digitact and the analog rhythm you see here, so that I could get rid of having all the audio, the analog cables plugged in, and then going into a interface and then summing and then coming back into the mixer down here. So instead, they're sent into Ableton and then being mixed so into the channels, and then I can mix it using the X Touch, and then I can mix the modular over here. But what was happening when I was doing those videos was, there was lots of glitching. There was glitching, there was dropout, there was MIDI sync issues, audio glitch, and I was like, "This is crazy." It wasn't doing this before. So, and also I noticed that the push three wouldn't connect to the PC properly, to the PC via Ableton, and it wouldn't show the screen here, which was weird. So I took a moment. I was like, I tried to do a few recordings. I was like, it's not working. This is crazy. This is weird. So I went, right. It's got to be something to do with maybe USB, because that's the only thing I could think of. So what I did first was I just went through all my hubs, and I made sure that they were all good. This one is one that was not working very well, so I pulled this instantly. It had it's a very old one. This one, I've had this for many years, and I realized it wasn't actually functioning. It must have got stuff in it, or debris or something. So I pulled this out, and I thought that might fix it, but it didn't really fix the problem fully. It did stop some of the dropouts of certain gear, but it just didn't help with the overall, with the push reconnecting, because this was not connecting. So what I then thought was it might be the overbridge, because I've got these linked into a hub that then goes singularly into the machine, and I thought it might be the communication with these two clashing together or doing something like that on the USB controller, that's the USB serial bus, that this is connected to. So I was like, right, what can I do? Okay, so what I did was I investigated the hub, the over hub. So this is the actual Electron over hub. I got this on eBay, and what basically I just wanted to make sure that, because I was using this is the one that they say you should use, that it wasn't a USB hub issue, and that if I did use this, if it cleared the problem up, it was the hub. If it didn't, then it was something else. So basically, what I did was I bought this, and I am going to use this at some point, but not right now. But it's because it's multi TT, and at the time when they released this, not many people were making multi TT USB hubs. So this was kind of a premium grade unit. Now you can buy multi TT USB hubs online for very cheap. I got this for like, I think 35 quid or something. So it's not out of the ballpark of a normal powered multi-TT hub you can get online. So it wasn't too bad to purchase this, but it turns out that the Electron gear function fine with a pad hub or a multi-TT non-Electron hub or a multi-TT over hub, basically. So it wasn't the hub. So I crossed that off the list. So the next thing was, right, okay, now pull all the USB cables. So at this point, I pulled the cameras out that are streaming using USB because I realized that it's got to be a bandwidth thing. So I pulled all the USB cables out of the back of the PC, and I connected my keyboard, my mouse, and just my push 3 into the PC. And this was stable. This then worked. And I was like, right, it's definitely a data issue and something to do with the amount of data that's going backwards and forwards between all these units and into the USB controllers, which are the serial controllers on the PC. So I pulled all the USBs, slowly plugged everything back in, and then waited for eventually when I plugged the Electron gear back in, this fell over again, which told me that it might be that my distribution of USB cables into my PC was at fault. So what I did was I then slowly did a combination of different cables and different ports until I got everything plugged in and nothing dropped out. And also this was stable and this was stable. So it suggested to me that I just got stuff plugged in the wrong way around, or just two very high bandwidth USB cables that required high bandwidth on the same USB controller, and that was causing me issues. So once I got that stable, I then was like, right, I've got to get my cameras back in to record because I want to continue making videos, but that's going to be difficult because obviously they're requiring quite a lot of bandwidth. So I went, right, okay. So I climbed up into the loft and realized that I had just enough old parts of PCs to actually make a video machine, dedicated video PC, out of the bits I already had in the loft from previous upgrades and cross grades. So I had an old, relative newish but relatively old AM4 Asus motherboard with a pretty okay CPU, power supply, RAM, which was very lucky that I had DDR4 RAM from the old machine, because RAM prices have gone up spectacularly over the last month or two, and some storage. And I basically built an entire PC in an old case, and then I saved up over the last month and bought an Elgato Camlink Pro card, which is a 4-channel HDMI input card, so I can then plug the cameras into that card instead of streaming them over USB. So I know I split them into a different machine, but I just didn't want to go back to a USB streaming issue on the other machine. And also it turns out that when you stream a USB camera, you need to put them on individual PCI lanes because you can't put them on the same lane because they just require too much bandwidth to put the video backwards and forwards. So it killed 2 birds, 1 stone by just getting the Camlink Pro. So that was all good. So now what I have is I have a video machine which is dedicated with OBS in, and the camera's connected, and then I have an audio machine that is now able to nicely do all the Ableton, the complicated Ableton sort of hybrid setup, which essentially will put all of the Electron gear in, and the push 3 is working with that as well. The X Touch is then able to mix up the channels of the Electron stuff, and I can then pull in the analog channels from the modular with synthesizers plugged in using a Bafako in-amps, a couple of those to change the impedance, the level, so the gain level of the channels from synth to modular to bring them up, so I can mix them down into the mixer and send them out to Ableton via the ADAT card over here, which I've into Ableton, and then I can pull the whole thing together and then send that audio left right over to the machine, the video machine that's now doing OBS, and make all my videos. And that's the way I can do it. As you also may notice, there's these bars down the left and right of the screen. I basically have found that I can do Restream plugin on each channel of Ableton because I'm doing a bit more complicated Ableton, and now I can split these out to kick, snare, hi-hat, and synths from the modular. So there's 8 channels here. There's 8 channels plus an effects channel at the bottom. for the modular channels. And on the left side, I can now do all 8 channels of the Electron and an FX channel, which is a combination of the channels, the 8 channels of the Digitact, and the it is 12, but it's 8, technically kind of 8 channels from the that I can do out of the analog rhythm combined into the one on the left. And that was the way I managed to solve it. So basically, a redistribution of the USB. Well, the problem was I'd plugged the USBs from my Electron gear and my push into the same USB controller, and then I'd plugged a lot of other things into the same controller by accident, and that basically maxed this out. Running the cameras just accelerated that, just exacerbated that problem, and just caused all the 3 USB bus controllers to max out, and that just put too much strain on the CPU in my computer, and essentially started to just muck about, mess the MIDI syncing up and the audio encoding up so you could hear glitching. But now that's all solved, and now I can run all the system, all nice, no glitching or anything, and I can do the video, and there's no issues there. But if you're having the same issue with the push not connecting, just make sure you haven't connected it to the same high bandwidth pair of units like Electron's doing overbridge or similar, because the push 3 is quite sensitive to data, and it does need enough to work. And if you don't do that, it can actually just look like it's broken, and it did look like it was broken, unfortunately. It wasn't, so I did stress for a moment, because it is quite expensive, this thing. But yes, it's a redistribution of the USB cables, and obviously when you're running something this big or something quite complicated like this, there are a myriad, there's so many things that can go wrong and issues you can have. It can be quite nightmarish when you can't work out what's happening. But that's just for me doing this video, just to say that it was a USB issue, and I solved it with just a redistribution of stuff. Also, I would advise, if you're having problems, try and get as many powered USB hubs on the go as possible into your ports, and with switches. This one doesn't have switches, so this is why it's been removed. So I can turn off individual items that I might want to use, or if I don't need them, I can actually turn them off so that it's not drawing data or power, and then that can also help you in a pinch if you're trying to work out what's going on with your system, if you're having some sort of USB bus issue. But thank you very much for watching this short video. I mean, that was my problem. That's the way I sort of went about trying to work out what it was and how I fixed it. I hope the information might be helpful if you're having the same sort of issue. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about making music and having fun, and being creative rather than scratching your head and trying to work out why the USB port doesn't want to work and it doesn't want to connect to your machine, and that's just wastes time and just frustrates everybody. But once again, thank you very much for coming to have a look at my channel. This was just a quick tips and tricks thing, just to show what I'd done to solve a problem, and I'll be posting videos with more jams soon, because now I've fixed everything, I can actually make some more videos, which is excellent. But thanks so much, have a good day, evening, night, or wherever you are in the world, and see you soon. Thank you.